Howdy, geeks, and welcome back to the pitch for the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Kev, and today's episode is going to be a lot like Snoop Dogg and Eminem at the Super Bowl, because it's a wrap on Season 2 of Ted Lasso, and we're here to share our thoughts on the finale. We will be doing spoilers, not an extensive amount, but just if you haven't watched it. But I mean, if you're listening to this, how have you not watched the finale already? But joining me today are two ballers who just make you want to holler, Justin and Nate. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Oh, football is life.
Football is life.
So when we talked about Ted Lasso last time, I caught myself saying, I think twice, soccer is life, and I wanted to punch myself in the face like Roy Kent would come into the room and just headbutt me or something.
Kent.
You know? Yeah. So definitely wasn't feeling that. But yes, this was such a good episode.
Yeah. I think this show had such a difficult bar. It set the bar so high after that first season. All of the awards that it's been given, the critical and audience reception has been through the roof. I haven't met somebody who's watched the show and not fallen absolutely in love with it. And so coming into this season, the questions were, can it live up to the expectations that were set in season 1? And then we get this season that shows growth and change and developments of characters. So did this finale sort of continue on with the momentum that the show's just been gaining and gaining and gaining?
100%. I think it feeds well off of the first season and continues to just be probably the single best example of what a feel-good story is about. Even as it gets a little bit more emotional, a little bit more personal, it still finds the light to really kind of remind people that optimism of hope and believing, that one word being just so core to this show. I think that there's a reason for that, and it really does show in everything that they do and all the effort they put into this series. And the finale itself, I think, it sets some stakes, and I think it did it really, really well to the point of, I'm excited for the third season.
I know the wait's going to be killer. We're going to have to wait a year for the next season of Ted, and that's terrible. But whereas the first season finale ended on sort of a low note for some of our characters and the football club, whereas this finale, things are almost ending in a more a positive note for at least the football club and some of the characters, but it's almost ending on a dour note with a lot of the characters, and that's going to be our journey for the next season.
Yeah, Jason Sudeikis described this season and especially this finale as The Empire Strikes Back, and I think that's absolutely correct, right? We've got some characters that are in a really good place and some characters that are in a really dark place, and I am so stoked to see what that's all about. But yeah, this episode was, I think it took a little bit of time for things to get going. It reminded me of, if I'm going to pull a Ted Lasso here, it was kind of like the Hulk ride at Universal. Takes a little bit of time to get going, but once it does, there's a lot of ups and downs. So I had a lot of fun with a lot of moments in this episode that I think it did a good job of sort of clearing up a lot of the characters' sort of storylines that were left in limbo just literally an episode prior. And so that to me is tough to do. I'm glad that they gave it a little bit more runtime with this one so they could sort of pad that out a little bit. But I'm just blown away, dude, how this episode just didn't miss. I was waiting for it to be like, okay, this is the finale. It's not going to be as good as the previous episode. I actually thought it was better, and it was one of my favorite episodes of this season, for sure.
It had so much heart to it, and to see the journey of the characters, because I think the first season really showed Ted and sort of him getting comfortable within this sort of new situation that he's in, and we see a little bit more behind the scenes of what pushed him to make that long distance jump to work in the UK. But here it really does open the door on the supporting cast and the characters around Ted Lasso, and I loved it. That's what I was hoping season 2 would do, and they really did give it. Obviously, towards this finale, we do get some interesting places of where those characters have been left as we enter into season 3.
Yeah, I think season 1, the smartest thing they did in season 1 was sort of subvert our expectations. You see Ted as this happy-go-lucky guy where nothing could possibly wrong in his life, and the truth is just the opposite in so many ways. And you're watching a feel-good sports show. Well, of course they're going to win, and of course things are going to go well for them, and it doesn't. And so what that allows you to do is constantly be on guard for I felt tension in that football match. The stakes felt real,
Oh
and
my
you
gosh.
didn't know how it was going to go. I was on pins and needles, like I was watching my own team taking the biggest free kick of the team's existence, and even characters you don't want to see them get hurt, but you know it could happen in the show. Not everything is feel good, and that's so awesome.
And I think, to your point, Kevin, like there's a lot of moments that I'll talk about in a moment that I definitely teared up at and wanted to cry at. But I teared up when Danny Rojas is going for that kick and then he gets it. Like that to me, especially to see how his character sort of started in this season, it was a beautiful bookend, but it was also just like, I don't tear up at sports things. You know what I mean? Like specifically a sports moment. But this moment and seeing the team run in and just all of them embrace each other was just so fantastic. But I also thought how incredible this show is at contrasting those moments, even at the same time, where we do see Nate kind of, you see the ripped up poster at the end, and you just sort of you're celebrating one side, and then you've got that heartbreak on the other side, and it's the show so masterfully nails making people feel those feelings even at the same time, and that's impressive to me.
And if we're going to talk about Nate, let's do it. And obviously not our gray-haired Nate, but the gray-haired Nate of Ted Lasso.
His hair got a lot grayer in this episode.
Well, I think life's taking.
I think that's the reason why.
Being an evil genius takes its toll, maybe, right? But who would have thought, especially as the show started a couple of years ago, that lovable little underdog Nate would become our antagonist. He's our main villain. You figured it would be Rebecca's husband, but no, he's just a small fry compared to the dark lord that is Waterboy Nate. It's unbelievable.
I think they did a really good job of seed planting that throughout. Like even in the funeral episode, that's the suit that Ted bought you, right? And just this constant reminder that he wouldn't have had that if Ted didn't do it for him. To see him, trying to get that table at that restaurant and the struggle that he went to be his own person, up to like the penultimate episode where he made the move on Keeley. And then he, that has that really visceral moment where he steps into the dressing room and he spits at himself in the reflection. And it was dark for the show because it really does show the sort of disdain and hate that Nate has for himself, right? Like he does not like himself. He does not think of himself as the person that he knows that he wants to be, as he gets his recognition earlier in the season for being the Wonder Kid of
I think it's
Richmond.
Pronounced Wonder Kid or Wonderkin.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
messed it up.
But anyways,
that's his transformation moment was the papers coming out and giving him that recognition he'd wanted his whole life.
He wanted more of it. He wanted more of it, and he didn't think that he was getting enough of it. Again, they did such a great job seed planting his character to be, I guess you could say he's the Darth Vader to the Emperor that is Rupert. So
yeah, and I think he again, it all stems from his father, and I think going into seeing him as a villain and seeing this progression, it's exciting to me because we're not getting a villain like Rupert is kind of a villain even more so because he is a traditional villain of like we don't really know his motivations, we don't really know his backstory as much like from his personal side, like the decisions he made, the struggles he went through, the hardships he went through. With Nate, it's going to be so much more dynamic because we're going to be able to see this character, and much like one of my other favorite shows that have turned entire characters upside down by the end of a season, Game of Thrones, I am so excited to watch this character and not root for him, but root for him at the same time. And I think that is huge. And I think they've got something going for all these characters. Like, it's crazy that the show is called Ted Lasso, but this season had a huge focus on Ted and his past, but also equally Sam, Rebecca, Dr. Sharon, Coach Beard, Roy, Keeley, Nate, and Jamie, like, all at the same time and just as much, to the point where in literally one season, these characters have elevated from not being main characters to now main characters. They were characters that our main character played off of in the first season to now I care about all of them equally. And I think that's just crazy that these writers were able to do this in a show called Ted Lasso. Just
Yeah, well, I think, though, that's the power of Ted Lasso.
Right.
Like, the reality is the first season really does focus on this sort of everyone's negative, everyone has their own issues. Ted's coming in, positives, kind-hearted person, and everyone just wants to see him fail, like especially Rebecca. And I think the tone of everyone at the end of season 1 really opened the door for how they were going to allow themselves to be influenced by Ted Lasso moving forward as a team, as individuals, so on. And I think that this season really does do that. It does, to your point, Nate, it showcases those supporting characters and the influence that Ted has had on them. And then it also flips the script by introducing the psychologist that helps to open up Ted a little bit more, and some of the revelations that we learn about Ted and why he is the way he is.
But they still found a way to take this psychiatrist who we all thought was going to be the villain of this season, and still found a way to make us fall in love with her and understand her backstory more, and also see her grow from Ted and Ted grow from her. Like,
exactly. It's
just crazy that, like, we're talking about all these feelings, and it's a sports show. Like, it's not a sports show. Football, is life, and that is so true in this entire series. I could just
and yeah, the focus is never primarily on the football and what's going on with the team, but because you care about the characters so much, you do care about what's happening with the team, and you want them to succeed, right? It's not a sports movie where winning the end championship is all you care about, and there's a bunch of cut and paste characters who make that happen, and all you really care about is that you care about these characters and want the best for them, and as a result, you end up non-sports fans who are watching the show, like you said, Nate, are going, "Come on, get that goal! I want to see you do well."
Right?
Like, it's amazing.
But everything had its focus, right? Like, the team had its own focus. I love that they did in the Beard episode. We got a little bit more time with those 3 dudes from the pub.
The 3 blokes from the pub are characters I care about, even, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, that's the thing. Like, everyone has had their moment to shine in season 2. That really helps to kind of elevate just the feel-good vibe of this show.
Even Trent Krim of The Independent is a character who, it's a small little story, but it pays off. There's, it's Ted brought out the best in him. Even.
Everyone.
Like, it's amazing. It's amazing the power this character has.
And he's a great example. His character, to really accentuate that idea of bringing the best out of people. I think Trent Kemp is kind of the sort of little icing on the cake for season 2 to really highlight that.
100%. And now we've kind of been talking about the finale and the season in general, because I don't think you can talk about one without the other. But so let's dive a bit more into the season as a whole, and maybe talk about our favorite episode or our favorite moments that happened.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, let me jump right in here. It was tough because there's so many good episodes. There's so many good moments. That Christmas episode was just phenomenal. I didn't think I'd needed a Christmas episode so bad in, like, what month was
July.
it that we were watching? July.
And normally that schmaltzy, over-the-top Christmas stuff can feel like a Hallmark movie, and you could instantly just repel me with that sort of cheese, and it was beautiful. I was tearing up almost. It was such a lovely... It's maybe my favorite Christmas episode of a TV show I've ever seen.
It was so good because it was so real. And there's so many of those real moments. And I think my favorite moment of this entire season is Roy hugging Jamie after his dad belittles him. I like weeping, like and then I watched it with my parents, and both my mom and my dad are just like in tears, and I don't see my dad cry too often, and that moment was so fantastic. And I think, Roy very quickly has become my favorite character of this show. Just to see him grow ever since he was watching reality shows with his yoga moms. That was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, this character, they're going a different direction than I thought with this character. And I was so happy to see it.
Yeah. Favorite moments. I think I really liked what they did in the funeral episode when they juxtaposed Rebecca and Ted, both sharing their stories of trauma from different aspects. I enjoyed that they really did highlight how trauma has different shapes and forms, but it can still leave an everlasting impression on someone and their psyche. And I think that's a very much like an undernote to this entire season is the idea of mental health and being able to openly talk about things. I don't think it's by any surprise that we have a psychologist that's involved in this season that's really trying to get to a rooted point of connection with the players and even with Ted as we see that unfold. So, to see this moment of vulnerability from both of these very, top tier characters in this series, I think it's very interesting to see that they have a lot more in common than they actually know. And I think it was obviously a very big reveal for Ted's character in that moment and as well for Rebecca. So
yeah, and another moment even from that episode, it's another moment where if done improperly, it can feel forced, it can feel cheesy, it can feel over the top, not organic, not real, is when, Ted comes in and helps Rebecca as she's struggling to get through that song, and then the team joins in, and they're like this family that's taking care of each other, and they've found support in each other, and that was goosies all over for that moment where they're all dealing with they all realize their issues and then have to confront them after that funeral because of that moment.
And another moment that shows Ted bringing the best out of everyone, right? And just inciting that sort of happy spirit in to just kind of bring things forward. So,
usually the expression "read the room" is like you're not getting things here, but Ted reads the room better than anybody else, and he always seems to have the right answer for what is needed at that specific moment.
I think all of them are my favorite episode, but I really did like, and I know that it's probably not Nate's favorite, but I did like the episode with Beard. I did like how they deviated just for a beat to follow this character who is very integral to Ted. And I think that episode shed so much light about his character, his own battles with destiny and understanding fate and understanding his own existence. Very much what we've seen in very small elements. And there's such a philosophical quality to Beard's character. And I feel like that episode really does highlight and showcase some of the best moments of him in a real comedic light. But, I enjoyed that episode because just for a second, we got to learn a little bit more about someone outside of Ted, just staying wholeheartedly on him. And, now coming back to the Ted Lasso form, there's more reasoning to when he has these moments. Like even in the season finale, as he's really plucking at Ted to like try to get him to do the right thing and get him to talk. And there's just more of a basis to go off of other than what was pre-existing to knowing his character. So yeah, I think kudos for taking the time to just steer for a second to another character and show us a little bit more insight there.
Well, in that episode, it was really a risk for them because they're stepping away from all of our characters for the most part and really deviating from our main storyline. We keep talking about these shows that have these almost one-off episodes where it's not focused on the main story as much. It feels a little bit different from the traditional formula that we know and love of the show. And I think while it didn't fit for me in the overall narrative of this season, it was refreshing to see something so different from the show. And it still succeeded even though it was so different. So yeah, I really did enjoy that episode, but not as a part of the whole season overall. But yeah, on its own, it really did stand out.
I think it's really popular now with a lot of these modern series, that do delve into the dramatic side while still staying a bit comedic. I think back to like Mythic Quest, like they've had a few episodes in each season where they do jump, into a completely different character. And we, even Only Murders in the Building, we got a really cool episode like that where we get to explore a character just wholeheartedly on their own as the main character of the episode. And so I think it's kind of a popular trend right now. And I don't think they didn't do a good job with it. Like, I still enjoyed the episode. For me, it wasn't as clear to me, and maybe I just didn't get as much out of it as you did, Justin, with that. And I probably would enjoy talking to you about the episode a little bit more, maybe not on this podcast, but than the episode itself. But for me, you had mentioned getting Ted to do the right thing. My favorite episode is Do the Rightest Thing, which is episode 3 of this season. I think this single episode encompasses an entire feel-good sports movie wrapped up into 36 minutes. seeing Nora connect with Rebecca and Sam, take that stance against the oil company or whatever company was working with the oil company, and then you see the entire team come out onto the pitch, and they've all got the tape on, and they're all backing him up, and it's not just...
And that was led by Jamie, who
right?
A season earlier, it wouldn't have made any sense for him to do what he did. So
good. And I teared up so hard when they all come out there, and they're all just standing there, and the pictures are being taken, and then you get to the end credits, and you see, the pictures with Nora and the team, and it's like the freeze frame, and then the credits start rolling, and I'm just like, I just watched a whole sports movie in 36 minutes, and it's probably my favorite sports movie I've ever watched. Like, that was awesome. So that is my favorite episode of this season for sure.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached full time, and though we've ended in a tie, if this show has shown us anything, it's that a tie is actually a lot better than kissing your sister. So let's drive ahead and give our final scores for both this episode and for the season as a whole. For the episode, we're going to be scoring it out of 5 underdogs turned D-bag. And for the season, we're going to be scoring it out of 5 Roy Kent
Okay. I love that. All right. Well, I mean, again, I think if you've gotten to this point in the podcast, we already know all our thoughts. Like, this isn't going to be surprising to anyone. I thought this episode, while it wasn't my ultimate favorite episode, all of these episodes are so good. I think, again, the only one that sort of missed for me was the Beard episode for me personally. But this episode itself, I'm going to probably give it a solid 4.5 underdogs turned D-bags. I think the way that they sort of followed all the characters, gave them that equal ground, but also found a way to clear up things that were left sort of vague in the previous episode, with Sam's decision, with where Nate was going, with the whole thing between Jamie and Roy. The way that they clear that up, the way that they don't just sort of snip it up really quickly. I think we've complained in previous podcasts how, we don't like that sometimes they solve the problem one episode after the other. But this one, I didn't feel bothered by it, the way that they were able to write it. And I think that's just a testament to how well these characters are written. 4.5 underdogs turned D-bags. And for this season, I mean, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm going to do it on the podcast. It deserves it. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, but I'm telling you right now that this is my favorite show on Apple TV Plus. Probably my favorite show of the past few years. And this season somehow finds a way to be even better than the first one. It is getting 5 out of 5.
Great. Well, for the episode, I think that this was the perfect way to end this season. This was a big win for the team, but leaves some of our characters in a bit of a precarious place. Decisions need to be made. Things are going to happen for season 3. That's for sure. Oh, yeah. And I'm very excited to see where it goes. I have loved all these episodes. I cannot say that there has been one that was better or worse than the other. I think I would 100% give this episode, like I'd give everything else from this, a 5 out of 5 underdog turned D-bags. And for the season, it's going to get a 5 out of 5. Because this show continues to show what feel good is all about. In a world right now where there's so much hate, there's so much divisiveness, there's so much negativity. This is the kind-hearted escapism that feels real, that can be the reminder that there is something more than just being hateful or being divisive or, having to just be argumentative for the sake of it. This is a show about teachers, mentors, and leaders that can make the difference and make change in others. So I think that this is a huge win as a series. And I don't know if I'm going to say we got some more stuff coming towards the end of the year, but I would say it's pretty close to probably being my favorite TV show of the year of all time, because it's just I've never smiled so much and felt emotional at the same time in episodes. And it is a huge win. I absolutely love this show.
So good.
I don't think you could pay me enough money to try and find a fault with this episode, with this show in general. with this amazing second season. I have never just been so in love with the premise of a show and the characters on that show. This is just sucking me in to a level I didn't think a TV show could. I've been obsessed with shows in the past, and this is somehow blowing anything that those shows have ever made me feel out of the water. This episode gave us everything that we'd been wanting for this entire season, while also giving us a whole new series of adventures that I can't wait to see these characters have to go through and take on. And just the way they stay so true to these characters, everything they do makes sense. It's not always the best outcome. It's not always the happiest outcome, but the show still makes you feel good because it is so real and because you have such a connection to these characters. So for the episode, I'm going 5 out of 5 underdogs turn D-bags. And for this, I'm doing it 5 out of 5 for this season, and it is slowly becoming my favorite television show of all time.
Wow.
Unbelievable work. All right, one last thing before we go here. I want to sort of speculate on where we see season 3 going and some of the things we want to see come from that season. Nate, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously we're going to get to see more Rupert, I think, come through in the next season. I think hopefully, as I said, I think we don't really, he's kind of a villain that's sort of described through Rebecca as opposed to we actually get to see him on screen. So I think it's going to be exciting to actually see that character on screen, as terrible as a guy as he seems. I think it'll be really interesting to see him with West Ham. Sam's Nigerian restaurant, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to see how much that is implemented or how much
I want to see Roy Kent go in and just, it's no kebab,
Right, for sure. I think that'll be pretty dope. And I think Nate coaching for West Ham, I think, seeing him become a true villain is going to be awesome.
Well, we've hit the cliche a lot, but him and Rupert are going to be like your Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader. He's
100%.
He's going to get mentored instead of by Ted, who could bring out the best in him. He might be mentored by a guy who's going to bring all those worst insecurities out.
And I think it'll also be really interesting to see, again, where they go with Keely and what have you. But I think what I'm most excited about is how they're going to find some of these additional ancillary characters, like Baz, Jeremy Paul, like maybe Trent Krim, right? Like these characters that are and move them forward into main characters. Like to see what happened with Trent Krim of The Independent at the end of this episode. I think he is going to become a bigger character next season. I would love to see if he becomes he writes a book on Ted Lasso. He talks about how he loves their conversations.
Oh, that's awesome.
Maybe that's how he sort of, and then we sort of see that character grow.
You call
and
the
become
book Ted Talks.
Oh, dude, come on! Writes itself, okay? But yes, I would love to see more Trent Krim next season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Nate's going to play it. It's interesting seeing Rupert right now. Like, after the moment with Rebecca at the funeral, the next moment we see is him whispering in the ear of Nate. And that's how we end this season. He's a little bit of that evil side that is pulling this out of Nate.
Well, he's taking advantage of him, right?
Yes.
It's
taking advantage.
It's the entire
of him,
story of bullies, right? And the show does such a good job of executing on that as well.
Yeah, and also exploiting his need for validation and purpose. So it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to get called out a lot by the rest of the team. I think we do see though that there will be redemption here.
Really,
you know what I mean? I think we'll get that redemption. I think we will. His character has come such a long way. I feel like what we're going to see is it get worse before it gets better, but it'll get better. And I think he'll find his way back. And what'll be a real testament is how the team forgives him eventually, right? Because the team has had a new appreciation for Nate since he became a coach and since he's been working with them closely. I feel like they already have this appreciation for his character, so it's going to hit them hard, and who knows how they're going to react once they sort of hear about the revelations. Who knows if Ted's even going to share it, because he obviously had enough respect for Nate not to share it, and I think that's going to bite him in the ass, because I think they're going to start using his moves and they're going to be implementing similar strategy, and it's going to kind of work against them because Nate's. So it'll be interesting to see how that all translates. But yeah, where they left Keely and Roy, really, really bizarre. I'm interested to see that. But I am liking how Sam's character seems to feel Like, he doesn't need to go to Casablanca and be part of the Nigerian team to just feel culturally connected. There's new ways that he can celebrate his culture here by opening a Nigerian restaurant, or even noticing a group of kids playing soccer and, a black kid wearing his jersey, and knowing that matters just as much as being on any team and can make just as much of an impact. But yeah, I think that what's next for him and Rebecca is going to be really interesting to see as well.
Yeah, I think I was not on board with shipping that relationship at all. It threw me off guard when the big reveal happened this season, and yet 2 episodes later, and I am so shipping that relationship. I so desperately want it to work. It came out of left field, and just that's the power of this show, is that they can make anything work and make you feel connected to it. And so that's so great. Speaking of connections, I mean, there's so many questions, and we have. I think what they've done is they've sort of given us the plot line of a lot of these characters and the trajectory that they're going to go on. We don't know how it's going to end up, but we sort of know where they're going. One character who I kind of felt by the end of this season is left a little stranded, and who knows where they're going to go, is Jamie Tart. I thought his growth from season 1 through season 2, even though he's really not in the show very much, it was great to watch. You're rooting for this guy to be able to turn his life around.
What's next for him?
Yes,
what's next
and
for
I
him,
love that they didn't change who he is. He's still full of himself and loves himself, but he doesn't use it as a weapon anymore. It's almost a shield to protect his own insecurities. And now I want to see this. He makes that selfless move at the end of the game to give somebody else the spotlight, to have somebody else get a moment that's going to change their lives. And Danny Rojas,
to apologize to Roy,
he apologized to Roy like a man, and he knew that could have been a death sentence, right?
Yeah,
and,
right.
And he did it like a man, and he stood up for himself, and he's becoming his own man. Under the guidance of his new father. I mean, Roy's almost going to be that mentor for him, I think. And so I can't wait to see their relationship maybe become buddies in this 3rd season. That would be a blast.
And I think, had you told me about Jamie Tart's character in this season, literally 4 episodes before season 2 started, I wouldn't have believed that he could get there, and he did. And I think there's literally the moment where he gets fired from the reality show, and he's no longer on that team, and he walks outside and he takes some time to sign some posters, but then you just see, the acting is so fantastic. You just see in his face that existentialism. You see that moment of him just sort of, you understand what he's feeling in that moment of that loneliness, of that disappointment, and how he knows he has to change. And I just, this show's it's just too good.
The show does such a great job at just making you feel something for every character, right? It's like, we've all outlined different experiences for each of these characters, and that was all encapsulated in this season 2. So I think bravo to the writing team and to just trying to incorporate everything and still tie a thread of keeping this sort of positivity, optimism, hope, belief as a theme that kind of ties all of these little intricate stories together. I just think so well done.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up another season of Ted Lasso. I got to say, as happy as this show makes me feel, I am utterly devastated knowing that who knows how long it's going to be before we see season 3. This is going to feel like an eternity, I think. But thanks for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us a glowing review. We always appreciate the love. And we want to know, what were some of your favorite episodes and moments from season 2, and where do you see the show going for season 3? You can obviously let us know at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. And if you're too busy out on the pitch working on your mad footy skills, hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT and on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Justin, Nate, and everyone listening, I appreciate you. Until next time, keep it geeky.
Football is life!